Hey guys, Matthew here. Welcome to episode number 9 of the BTB series. Today we'll be doing something basically pretty simple, to be honest. It's just something that I think most people don't do and should probably do if they want to basically track their progress when it comes to making currency and whatnot and achieving their goals. There's multiple programs that exist in Path of Exile that will allow you to track your progress when it comes to currency goals or even XP goals for some other stuff and whatnot. But obviously here I'm mostly going to focus on currency. And there's two that come to mind. One of them being Exilence and the other being Currency Cop. This video is going to be about Exilence, but the same thing can be applied to Currency Cop. Basically, in this video, I'll be talking about how to use it, what it does, and also like the really good things about it, and also the things you really need to be worried about when using them. Things you need to keep on your mind if you don't want to end up, scamming yourself in the end. So basically, let's say you've been mapping for about 3 hours. You've got your Exilence running. Exilence looks something like this. You're getting your session ID. I mean, there's a guide on how to set up Exilence out there. It's very, very easy. It takes like 3 minutes. You just install it. You link it to your client text. Like I said, the guide is gonna show all of that. It's very simple. Anyways, at some point, then you'll be greeted with a login page. So you log in, not with your actual login information, by the way. It's just like a login. Press enter. When you press enter, basically what this program does is it scans the stash API as well as what you have in your inventory and on your character. Like basically, you need a non-private profile. Your profile has to be public for this to work. What's going to happen is, like I said, it's going to scan everything. Now this is good because it allows you to really easily track how much currency you're making every single hour. The reason for that is under settings, you can basically decide which tab you want things to be accounted for. So for example, you could choose to have your dump tabs, but you could also choose to not have your dump tabs in there. And your tab needs to be public because, as I said, it reads from the stash API, and then you need to enable which tab you want to be read and which tab you don't want to be read. That would be, let's say you wanted to count your actual net worth. Otherwise, under window, you can set window always on top. That would be, for example, if you're trying to play in full screen mode, stuff like that. But it's not too big of a deal. In net worth, okay, so this is where it becomes a little bit more, I guess you could say, tricky. So it's going to calculate your net worth, and what net worth is basically is the value of your entire account or character or whatever it is, like everything put together. But this is tricky because there's multiple things that it doesn't take into consideration, and this is what basically this video is going to be about also, is how to make sure to get basically as accurate as you can when it comes to calculating how much currency you're making per hour, be it from prophecy farming, mapping, delving, whatever it is. So you have automatic price updates, which basically is going to update the prices of every item automatically whenever there's a switch on like PoE Ninja or whatever it pulls from. Low confidence pricing is basically if you were to go on PoE Ninja, there's low confidence and there's high confidence, which is the same thing I use: low trust factor, high trust factor. Basically, those are what this means is that they're going to take, let's say, the 90% of all the prices for one given item, and then they're going to take the 5% most expensive and the 5% least expensive, and they're going to basically delete them from the average because they could really mess up the average of an item. For example, in a situation where a 10x item is price fixed at 1x, it could show you the average being 3x when in reality the item is 10x. So by removing low confidence, you can take care of that. I personally haven't messed with that. You have character, which is also going to check the stuff on your actual character, your gear, inventory, stuff in your inventory, whatever. Map prices is going to also include the price of your maps. This is one that can be a little bit tricky because it's going to count all your T1 maps and whatnot as like one chisel. The thing is, nobody's going to buy your T1 maps for the most part. So it's all going to be basically like fake currency that you don't actually have. But most people are not farming T1 maps, so that should not really be an issue because you shouldn't be picking up that many T1 maps. Actually, if you're using something like a a never sinks filter, you're not even going to see T1 maps as you progress through the map tiers, because at some point it starts like it doesn't show lesser tier maps anymore. Anyways, that's something you can mess on the actual Filter Blade website though, if you want to mess with that. Anyways, so item value threshold, basically you can calculate things only from 1C and above, or you could put 10C, you could put whatever you want. And in this case, what it would do is wouldn't calculate things that are considered to be worth less than that. So for example, if you had a 101 ALK item, they're not going to be counted because it's only looking for over or 1C or above. And there you go. Then you're calculating your gain over the past. You can see per hour, per 3 hours, per 5 hours, per 10 hours, whatever, per day. You decide. So most people, if you're mapping, you're going to want to look at your currency per hour. If you're flipping, you might want to look every like 2 to 3 hours, because obviously you're going to have some really stale period, but you're going to have some insane periods. So if you want to Diable and motivate yourself, going 2 to 3 hours might be better. If you're delving and selling your stuff in bulk, then obviously you're not going to see much gain every couple hours if you're just in the middle of your bulk and your fossils. Therefore, you might want to look every single day. You know, it's something that you can think about basically what you want to do. Convert 6 socket to jewelers. Basically, every 6 socket in your inventory, in your dump tab, whatever, is going to be counted as jewelers instead. That's basically it for that. Areas, you don't really have to worry about that. Basically, how this program works is that every time you change your area, which means right now I'm in my hideout, if I go to Oriath, I change zone, right? I changed area. That would trigger the program to recalculate my net worth. And I'll show you how that works in a sec. So, for example, if I go to current group, because dashboard, some other stuff, and inspect players, basically you can add groups. Let's say you were playing in a group. You can have your entire group up here and see the net worth of your party members as well, which is pretty interesting. But current group is obviously only myself. Therefore, I don't have to worry about anybody else. As you can see under areas, it says that I went to Oriath and then that I went back to my hideout. This would be the triggering factor to basically make Exilence go ahead and restart itself. Well, not restart itself, but recount how much I'm actually worth. There is an internal cooldown on this, so you don't just spam the entire thing. And you can change that. Where is it? I can't quite remember, but I think it's every 2 or 3 minutes or something that it goes ahead and changes. Let's see. All right, so this is like the important part. It's under net worth. So obviously this is going to be your net worth. It's going to show you how much you're worth, and it's going to show you like lines. So for example, here you can see that I'm apparently losing currency. Chances are because some items have dropped in value. Maybe mirrors are cheaper than they used to be. That's a possibility. Maybe chaoses are crashing. Who knows? Like, there's a lot of different things that could be happening that would change this. So again, you can calculate this every 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever. You can clear the history if you wanted to basically reset the entire thing. Yeah, net worth data is recorded every 2 minutes. So there you go. It's every 2 minutes. And you also have an overlay for this. The overlay will look something like this. It's going to count your current net worth. So for example, here I reset the entire thing, so it would have to recalculate in like 2 minutes. It's going to appear. And then my gain per hour basically is going to appear on my screen. So if I really care about, you know, try to, like, let's say I'm doing some tests and I want to figure out which map it runs, which map I need to run to make the most currency per hour. For example, chasing really expensive div cards versus chasing cheap div cards that drop all the time. This would be a really good tool for that, because it's going to calculate your actual net worth altogether and your actual gain every single hour. So very, very useful tool here on Exilence. Now, to the last things I want to say about basically using Exilence or Currency Cup is there's basically 3 things that it doesn't account for that are pretty damn important. Now, if I go to my net worth, let's see if I change zone, maybe it's going to recalculate it, because obviously now I don't have a net worth, so that's a little bit problematic. But we can have a look here. Okay, so as you can see, this red line here, this means that it's loading my net worth right now. It's recalculating everything it has to calculate. It's going to take a little bit, because obviously it has to go through all the stash tabs, every single thing that I'm telling it to look for, it's going to look for. So it's going to take a little bit. This is only going to be the first time though, because afterwards it's only going to look at things that changed. So the first time around it's going to take a little bit to load, but afterwards in the future it's not going to be long at all. Let's see how long this takes. Hopefully it's not too bad, because I want to explain something. But you know what? Actually, I guess I'll explain it, and we can just come back to this later. So there's 3 things this program, and the same thing applies to Currency Cop, does not account for. There's 3 things that are basically pretty important. There we are. 3 things that are pretty important that this program will not account for. The first one being rares, right? So the reason I wanted to see this in here is that, for example, if I go ahead and check all these items, you will not see a single rare item out of my 427 items that I have for sale. None of them are rare. None of them. Not a single item is going to be rare, because rares can be worth an absolute crazy amount, but it can also be worth nothing. The thing is, the program doesn't know that. The program cannot basically just guess how much it's worth. So how they set it up is that rares are just not accounted for. So for example, if this one was worth, I don't know, 2x, it wouldn't count. I would be missing 2x of my net worth. Now that's not a big deal if it's worth 2x, but let's say it was worth 100x, it would be a completely different story. Obviously this is not a wand worth 100x though. This is a pretty basic, like day 3 wand that's just multi-modded that I've had for literally the entire league. Anyways, so that's the first thing that's not accounted for. So that's one thing that you need to be careful with if you're running this, to try to basically see how much you're worth. If you're doing some crafting, for example, you could be like, oh, I just crafted a 10x item. Well, it's not going to account for it. So don't be sad or anything. Once you sell that 10x item and you put the 10x in your stash, then it's going to be accounted for and you're going to be 10x richer according to Exilence. Until then, tough luck. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it doesn't account for rolls either. So for example, I'm selling this Hyres Iron Zodiac leather that is 6 length, is worth 794.95 chaos. So 795 chaos is what the program thinks this is worth, because obviously the program pulls the data, the prices from like PoE Ninja or PoE Watch or something. I'm not sure which one it is, but it pulls the values from these websites. So the rolls are not accounted for, just actually what the item is. So in this case, for example, this Hyres it says it's worth 795 chaos, but I'm selling it for how much? 7x. How much is that in chaos? I don't know, maybe 900 or something. Maybe more, maybe less. I literally don't know. I haven't been playing at all. So if a Zodiac's leather is if the program says it's worth like 800 C and it's actually worth like 1,000, then obviously I'm missing 200 C on my net worth. And the same applies to everything. Obviously for like a 6-link Hyres Iron, it's already going to say that it's worth a good bit. But for example, I could probably, well, I guess the perfect example would be a Watcher's Eye, right? So a Watcher's Eye is apparently worth 49.5 chaos. Is what this program says it's worth. We all know that Watcher's Eye can be worth multiple mirrors, so obviously it doesn't account for the rolls of the uniques, but it also doesn't account for like which roll you have on your Watchers, and that's the same thing. The same thing could be said for something like a what's it called? Like an All's amulet as well. I think I saw one earlier. Yeah, see, All's Uprising is valued at 37 chaos, when almost all of them are minimum 1x, and some of them are multiple exalts. For example, this one here, which is Haste, reserves no mana, is worth somewhere in the ballpark of 10x. I bought this for 40 chaos. I was just doing some testing with my new filters, and this popped up. I was like, alright, let me snatch that. 40 chaos. It's worth 10x. But the program will say that it's worth 40C because it pulls the data that says it's worth 40C, because the average of all of them that are posted equates to 40C. So that's the second problem with the program. It doesn't account for rolls on uniques. And the last problem is it doesn't account for bulk selling. So a good example of that, I guess, let's see if I have anything that I can sell in bulk. Alright, sure. Let's take Possessed Foes. It says that possessed foes are worth 18.4 chaos. Wow, these things have literally dropped by half. But a couple weeks ago they were like 45C. But either way, so it says the program says possessed foes worth 18C. Now the issue is that if I actually buy possessed foes for 18C each, or even less, maybe 15, 16C each, and I buy 20 of them, then I can take those 20 and instead of selling them for 18.5C or 0.4C, I can probably sell them for like 22C or maybe even more, maybe less. I'm just throwing out random numbers. One actual example that I can give you guys is that, for example, Twice Enchanteds a couple weeks ago were about 16C each, 16 to 17C each. But if you were to buy Twice Enchanteds, and you were to buy like 20, 30, 40, 50 of them for 16 to 17C each, you could sell them in bulk, which means all in one go, for about 22C each. So, for example, in my 10C to Headhunter challenge, which took 3 days, I was doing a lot of things like that. I was buying things one at a time for the regular market value, or even sometimes under market value, and then I was reselling it for a pretty hefty profit. So that's basically all I wanted to say in this video. There's this program, there's also Currency Cop. I'm going to link both of them in the description. They're very, very useful, but there are some little things that are missing when it comes to using these programs, which is what I just explained. There's a couple different exceptions. That being said, it's still very, very useful. And if, let's say your goal is to get yourself a headhunter as fast as possible in a league, right? And you only go by the value of your doctor cards, and you basically forget everything else that you actually own, well, you're basically going to make it much, 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 much worse for yourself, and it's going to take way later for you to acquire the item that you're wanting, aka, for example, a headhunter, because you're only accounting for your chaos, your exalts, and your doctor cards. The thing is, everything else you own also has a value, and it's got a different value than what you might expect, and most certainly a higher value than what you'd probably think, especially when it comes to well-rolled items or bulk items. So that's basically all I wanted to say in this video. Before I go, I want to say a huge thank you to my Patreons. We have Ace, Drool, Alex, FixFaxer, Francesco, General XDC, Kai, Kara, S Diablo, Gordo, Stan, and Manastryna. And as a special thank you, I want to say a huge thank you to Mr. Coffee, KFish, and Casticus. You guys are the boys, and huge thank you to you guys. You guys are basically making this possible. As always, hopefully you enjoyed. Hopefully you learned a little something. That's going to be Matthew signing out until the next one. There's going to be quite a few more videos coming before the launch of 3.9, so look out for those. I'm going to be basically doing some good league starter builds. I'm going to also be doing some predictions and some thoughts that I have on 3.9 and 4.0 as well. So be on the lookout for all that. If you want to support me, you can always look out my Patreon. You can also check me out on Twitch. I do try to stream every single day, but my official full-time streaming will start with the launch of 3.9, so look out for that. Anyways, that's going to be Matthew signing out. Peace.